welcome to Getaway Day. My name is Gautam, his name is Mason, and today we are going to finally podcast. It's been a while. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been a while. I've needed some time off for a little bit. So now we're back. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm hyped. We're going to do this.
Yeah, and so much has been going on. I figured today would be a good chance to just kind of check in on a bunch of teams. We're gonna focus on the National League today. Um, the trade deadline's passed. We're kind of gearing up for big postseason pushes. You could call this the dog days of summer, but I mean, a lot of exciting stuff is actually going on right now, and um, there's plenty of stuff that we need to catch up on. I think today's the chance to do that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is that the National League has been so weird this year and wide open, and everyone was in it, and it's now finally starting to separate from the pack. So I think it's a really good time to kind of take another look, because we're not just saying, well, every team is kind of good and every team also kind of sucks. So this is going to be like our first actual look at the National League with some semblance of an idea of who's going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think we're not going to neglect the Rockies or the Nationals. We want to talk about what they're doing too, because
I want to neglect them.
There's intrigue there. There's interesting things going on. Not the Rockies.
Yeah, I want to neglect the Rockies because that's what they do to their own team.
Well, stay tuned, because I have a legitimately positive thing to say about the Rockies that I'm bringing to the table today.
I don't believe you.
Okay. Well, are you interested in hearing it?
Is it gonna make me like them?
Probably not. It's probably not going to change your opinion.
Okay, then yeah, I'm in. I don't want to like them, so if it's not going to change that, I'm good. We're in.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think let's start in the NL West. We're not going to start with the Rockies. That just seems like the wrong place to start. But I wanted to start with the Giants. And with the Giants, they had a kind of interesting trade deadline. We can go down that path and talk about that, but I want to talk about Blake Snell, because we haven't talked about Blake Snell since he went on a ridiculous run once again. He threw a no-hitter. He had a game with 15 strikeouts. Looking at his stats here that I've got pulled up, in his last 45 and a third innings over July and August, he's given up a total of 5 earned runs. He struck out 60 batters. In the second half, his batting average against is 110 with a 192 OBP. So once again, Blake Snell has looked like both the worst pitcher in baseball and the best pitcher in baseball within the same year. And it's just incredible. How does the guy just turn a season around like this 4 years running now?
Honestly, man, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I do love the fact last year and this year, I kind of wish it would have started just a little bit sooner and he would have got traded potentially. But I love that he finishes strong. Yeah, it's rough whenever a guy starts out as bad as he did. And even for him, I don't think he usually starts out that bad. I think this was a special circumstance with the shortened or him not having a spring training, having to kind of get up to speed during the season, injuries. There was a lot of things going wrong for him early this year. But the fact that he's now locked in, he's finishing the season strong. He did that last year. It just shows that he is a good pitcher, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. I think everyone would agree on that. And the fact that he finishes strong.
You can't luck into being this good. There's no argument that Blake Snell is just made out of luck, because he's consistently pitched at an elite level for stretches. He just can't put it together for a full year.
Yeah. Now, I do have, before we run out of time, since we're only doing 3 minutes per team, I do have one other guy that I want to mention here with the Giants. And this is a 2019 4th round draft pick for the Giants, Tyler Fitzgerald.
Holy cow. This guy's unreal. I was just talking about him yesterday. It's what is going on here? This guy didn't have standout minor league numbers. Like he showed something. He
Yeah,
hit for some power, hit from some speed, but what's he doing this year?
he was basically an average hitter in the minors, but this year in 60 games so far, 14 home runs, 307, 364, 620 slug for a 173 OP or WRC plus and 3 WAR for the Giants. He is their best hitter, period. And that is our time for the Giants. Perfect timing.
So, yeah, good stuff. I mean, Tyler Fitzgerald's probably a one-hit wonder, but it's fun.
Technically, he's a
lot of hits wonder.
55 hit wonder.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, but meanwhile, in the West, the Giants are kind of lagging behind 3 other teams. 3 of like the best teams in this league, and the one we'll talk about next are the Padres. So I was watching a Padres game last couple days ago, Tuesday, and it just feels different. Like the vibes are very good in San Diego this year compared to last year, when really the difference maker in their season was their ridiculous misfortune in runners in scoring position situations. This year, that's gone out the window. They basically got the same cast of players, yet they've been one of the best teams in the league in high leverage situations. And sometimes that makes or break your season. So everyone thought San Diego was like going to go super deep into the postseason last year, but I think they're just doing what they're supposed to do this year, and they're looking to be in great shape for the postseason.
Well, and the thing that's really interesting to me about this Padres team is it's not the guys you would expect that are the ones that are getting this team to the point where they are now, I think, 4.5 games of the 3rd wild card spot. Yeah, they're tied for the 1st wild card with the Diamondbacks actually right now. But you would expect that it would be Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr. But both Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts are pretty pedestrian this year. Like Machado's got a 1.7 WAR. Bogaerts has 1.1 WAR. The guy who is leading the charge here is rookie outfielder Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill, if he's not rookie of the year, I'm going to be shocked. But he's just playing out of this world. He's a fantastic defender who's also got 17 home runs, a 290 average. This dude is the real deal. He's got speed. He's 13 steals on the season. For a 124 WRC plus. Like, he is the energy behind this team right now. And I think coupling him with a new manager here in Mike Shildt, I kind of think Mike Shildt is bringing some vibes to this team that they didn't have last year, and I do want to give him a little credit as well.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Machado. He's really picked it up since the slow start. He looks basically like himself again, and they've been doing this all without Tatis, who is their best player when he's healthy. So if they get him back, they're going to be in good shape. They got Joe Musgrove back this week from injury. Yu Darvish maybe will come back at some point. So getting healthy and playing really good baseball right now, like they could track down the Dodgers. They're really not that far behind.
Yeah.
Another team that could track down the Dodgers, that's the Arizona Diamondbacks, who, holy cow, like when I said at the All-Star break, I asked you the question, like, what's the sleeper team that people aren't really thinking about? And I said the Diamondbacks. And they've blown that expectation like way out of the water. They've been clicking on all cylinders, best offense in the National League in the second half, and like season long numbers say the Diamondbacks have like a better offense than the Dodgers or the Padres or anybody just about this year. It's unreal what they've been doing.
Yeah. So, and the key for me here with the Diamondbacks is that they've got right back into it. Like I said, they're tied with the Padres, and their rotation and their pitching staff is still kind of not where you want it to be, but they did get a huge piece back here last week in Eduardo Rodriguez. He's made 2 starts so far.
Kelly back.
Oh, they did get Merrill Kelly back?
Yep.
Good deal. So their rotation's getting healthy at the right time. Eduardo Rodriguez, 2 starts so far, giving up 3 runs in each of them. So he's starting out a little rough, but I mean, give the guy a couple starts to get back into it. And they're in prime position to potentially take over the division, if not just run away with the first wild card, if they can keep or outpace the Padres.
Yeah. And I got to give some love to Ketel Marte, who's having an MVP type season. He's put up 5 more.
3rd in the National League in RBIs.
He's been on another level. He's basically playing better than he played in 2019, where he finished like top 5 in the MVP voting. He's having a better year than that, and he would not have been my pick to like. I love Ketel Marte. I think he's a great player. He's been a great player for a long time, but I would have expected Corbin Carroll to carry this club.
Same. So imagine it's 2003. All right. 298, 369, 561, 30 home runs, 6 steals, 81 RBIs, and 5.4 WAR. Isn't that an MVP in 2003?
Why did the numbers change that? Like,
well, just from the standpoint that now, like, we've got Ohtani and Judge, who are like ridiculous numbers of home runs for Judge and still a 300 average. Like, we have athletes now that are doing things that have not been done before. So they're going to get it. And I think he won the MVP that year. Okay, 2007.
Okay, fine.
So I think he's the 2007 MVP in 2024.
Yeah. No, I mean, he should be up there, right? He should be like top 5 in voting.
Yeah.
This year. Dodgers. They've got the MVP on their team in Shohei Ohtani. But this team kind of scares me a little bit, especially on the pitching side. They just lost young River Ryan to Tommy John. And
it was Tommy John?
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that part. That sucks.
Yep. And it was just, games after he had made his debut. Yoshinobu Yamamoto still returning from his injury. And, you're relying on old Clayton Kershaw, which is fine for quality of innings, but he's not going to pitch deep into games. The bullpen has been stressed and not super effective. And that is always kind of a thing that people point to as a reason the Dodgers have not succeeded in the playoffs, is because they haven't been locked in on the bullpen side of the pitching side. Are we just headed towards another flop in the postseason? I mean, that's not everything, but like, I don't know.
I mean, it's possible because in the postseason, pitching is paramount. Like, you can win a lot of games by outmashing everybody, but when you only have 5 games to win 3, you don't have time to give up or to have your starters not pitch deep or your bullpen to blow up a game here or there. But this is a team that could very much outpower everybody. And 3 days ago, 3 days ago, Mookie Betts came back off the IL. And so now they've got one of their superstar sluggers back in the lineup, and he announced his presence with a 2-run home run against Milwaukee in Milwaukee. So Mookie Betts is going to be a huge addition back to this lineup. I think he's going to be playing second base, isn't he?
I think they said he's going to play the outfield, right field again.
Oh, right field? But yeah, so, I guess right field, second base. But that is key for this team to have both, or to have all of Ohtani, Freeman, and Mookie in the lineup, hitting well. And like, Mookie's been off to an even better start. He's got 6 hits in the last 3 days. So
he didn't miss a beat. Like, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
Special shout out to Gavin Lux, who's putting together his best stretch of games in the last like 2-3 weeks now, and that helps because we've talked about the bottom of their lineup being a kind of a black hole um with like Lux and whoever of like Chris Taylor and Jason Hayward. Like those guys have struggled this year. If they have like one guy in Lux, it helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um, and then finally in the NL West, we got the Rockies here. So man, the Rockies are just a disaster. Like they just today they put Elias Diaz on waivers after neglecting to trade him at the All-Star break or the trade deadline for some value. Like I never understand their strategy at the deadline when they're clearly out of it. They never seem to get anything out of it. Um, should I go into my guy that I think is like awesome on the Rockies?
Can I take a guess as to who it might be?
It's pretty easy to guess because they don't have very many good players.
Is it Tovar?
No, it's Brenton Doyle.
Yeah, that was my other guess.
Yeah, so you remember in our very first episode, second episode, where we talked about the Rockies, this episode that we constantly refer back to, we talked about the Rockies need to have an elite center fielder to cover all that ground. They have one now, and it's Brenton Doyle, and he's not just a one-trick pony. Like, go watch Brenton Doyle defensive highlights. They're awesome. He's a super good defensive player. But he's like got skills. He has 20 home runs and 23 steals. So we're talking about a 2020 center fielder that's a great defender. That's a rarity in baseball. Like plenty of teams would want Brenton Doyle to be their center fielder.
Well, and the thing that makes it even better is that they do actually have one other pretty good player that is fantastic defensively. So Doyle can play back more, and the shallow balls there in center, Ezequiel Tovar can probably get to them. And he's been awesome up the middle as well there at shortstop. Like most of his value of his 2.6 WAR is defensive. Like most of it. I think he's actually a little bit negative on the hitting side, but even then he hits 275 with 19 home runs. He just doesn't really have a whole lot else on base wise. If he starts taking a few walks, then Tovar is incredibly dangerous, and he takes that 95 WRC plus, a little bit worse than league average, with spectacular up the middle defense, and gives the Rockies two solid players up the middle on both sides of the plate.
Yeah, the one who got away this year, and I had really high hopes for him because of the way that he closed last year, was Nolan Jones, because he was great down the stretch. He looked like he could be a real guy for them, and back injuries and just when he's played, he's not played well at all. I think I'm going to chalk it up to the injuries, but it's getting late for Nolan Jones to kind of solidify himself.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to talk about Central or East next?
The Central's kind of mid. Let's do them in the middle.
All right. Let's talk about the Brewers, because there was some big news today that Christian Yelich is going to go for season-ending back surgery for an injury that's been on and off plaguing him for his entire career, basically since 2014. I think it goes back to. So the guy's been dealing with a back injury for a decade, and that hasn't stopped him from MVPs and awesome seasons. But I really hope for Yelich it's something that will put these issues kind of to bed, and he actually doesn't have to deal with this because it's been handled surgically.
Yeah. So as of the end of July, Yelich was debating on getting off-season back surgery, but he was not 100% sure because he wouldn't be available for the start of 2025. I think with it kind of coming back up, bothering him a little bit more, he probably could have played through it for the rest of the year, but I think the thinking is that he's hurt, he needs to deal with it, and getting the surgery now means he'll be available at the beginning of next year. So I think he's basically making that trade-off of, do I try and play through it, or do I come back and have an entire healthy season next year? Hopefully.
I guess I have a different take on it, because wouldn't he want to play through the rest of this season and postseason this year and miss the start of next year? Wouldn't that be a better route? My thought is that this injury has become worse. Like, it's really bad now and he can't play through it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, I'm going to guess that if he really, really, really wanted to, a 15-day IL stint, some injections, he'd be able to come back and play, but he's not going to be the level that he's been this year. And he's been really solid this year. I mean,
he's awesome.
21 stolen bases. He doesn't have like a ridiculous amount of power this year. He's only hit 11 home runs, but he's batting .315. He has a 400 OBP. Like, he's been incredibly good with even less, or with less pop than he usually has in a healthy season. So
just general thoughts though on the Brewers. The Brewers and the Guardians have been the two most surprising teams in baseball this year based on preseason expectations. With the Guardians, I see like flaws all over and they just seem a little bit fluky. With the Brewers, I can't really poke holes in what they've done despite having so many pitching problems, so many other things going on. They seem like just a solid team, and I kind of believe in them.
Yeah, I don't want to. Do I have to?
I don't want to. But you can't argue it. That's the problem.
I'll try.
Okay. So we'll circle back on that one. So who is trailing the Brewers? The Cardinals are. And my take on the Cardinals is,
I don't know that it's really trailing anymore. We're falling behind big time now.
I was gonna say, my take on the Cardinals is they're really not that great a team.
No.
They've actually overperformed. If you look at like run differential, they've got a big negative run differential, and they still have like a 500 record roughly.
Just under 500, yeah. We went under yesterday. With the loss to the Reds. Now, the Cardinals has been like a tale of almost three segments of the season. There was the abysmal, we had like a -80 run differential in the first like month of the season. We've improved that over the next segment where the Cardinals were really, really good. They got back in contention. Every win was a struggle. I think the average, score differential in the wins was like 1.1 runs or something. Like, it was, every game was close. There's a reason that Ryan Helsley set a club record for saves before the All-Star break, because there were a lot of opportunities. And now, even with going out and getting Eric Fetty at the deadline, getting Tommy Pham, who at first Pham seemed like he was going to ignite this offense and they were going to take off. Well, they've come back to earth and then tanked. The rotation with Michaelis has not been able to hold it together, and the bullpen's been blowing more games, and it just, everything seems to be falling apart again. So the run differential, I don't like looking at it over the course of the season because I think it's misleading. Now, month by month, I think it makes a lot more sense. But I don't like just looking at that -63 because it doesn't really show you that there was that like 2-month stretch of them being the best team in baseball.
But even then, they're still carrying that minus run differential. I think the two things that I look at, I mean, I just constantly keep looking back at Arenado and Goldschmidt, who never got their seasons back on track. Goldschmidt just jarring, like 0.3 WAR this season, 10% worse than league average. I mean, he's been a detriment to the team. It's not like he's just average or something. He's been actively bad.
The one thing that he's been able to continue doing is hitting a decentish number of home runs. Like, he's on pace for about 23 home runs this year, which is about the same as last year.
But when you look at him compared to, your average first baseman, it's not, giving the team a real edge over other teams at that position.
Oh, no, not at all. And Nato has started to get it back on track, but it's too little too late. His 2.4 WAR is mostly defensive, which makes sense, but he's going to have to go on some ridiculous homer every day for 30 days tear just to get his season numbers back to respectable as a hitter.
Yep. Then the Cubs. So the Cubs keep showing glimpses of the team that they could be, but there's really no sense of consistency in what they've done this year. Like, they've got like 7 teams ahead of them in the wild card hunt that all hold the tiebreaker. Like, they could make the playoffs, but the chances are like extremely low at this point. And so that's why with these few minutes, I think it's almost like where do the Cubs sit in the scheme of things in Major League Baseball? It's like they're in a weird place because they're kind of set up to contend, but they don't have the star power to really compete with the top end clubs. They don't seem willing to spend a whole lot. They do have a lot of prospects that are getting really close to being in the majors, but they're going to need to like get a lot of improvement. Otherwise, it's just going to be another season like this next year, I feel like.
Yeah, and I kind of think that they're maybe, I don't want to say outperforming what they're capable of doing, because I mean, there's arguments made that they're maybe underperforming a little bit. But the thing that it kind of concerns me is some of their steady guys are starting to struggle a little bit more. And the guy that I'm talking about specifically is Shota Imanaga. 2 of his last 3 starts have been less than stellar compared to what he's done so far this year. I mean, against Cleveland here 3 days ago, 5 innings, 7 runs, only 3 of them earned, to be fair.
There was a big error there.
But giving up 2 home runs against St. Louis on the first, 6 2/3, giving up 4 earned runs on 2 home runs.
Home runs have been certainly the bugaboo for Imanaga.
Can you tell me how many starts ago was the last time Shota had a game without giving up a home run?
I don't know, probably like 6 or 7.
6.
Okay, yeah.
It was against Baltimore on July 10th.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a problem for him always. And we kind of knew that coming into this year, that home runs would be his issue because he is a huge fly ball pitcher. He's had really good starts, like intermix, and I think he's fine. He's just not like the .82 ERA guy that he was through his first like 7-8 starts. Like, that was unrealistic to expect.
Yeah, and I mean, like, overall his season numbers are still fantastic. Like a 3.16 ERA and where's his inning count? In 130 or 128 in the 3rd innings. Like, he's doing fine. It just seems like he's maybe getting to the point of the season where he's a little tired. He's trying to get through it, but if your most consistent guy is a little less consistent, it doesn't give me hope for the next month.
Another team that's really just faded after they went out and made ad decisions at the deadline was the Pirates, who I believe are on a 10-game losing streak at the moment.
They are.
So they've like pretty much cooked themselves out of this race. With the Pirates, I've got a random guy to talk about, and that's Joey Bart. Because Joey Bart basically has totally taken over the starting catcher job for the Pirates. Henry Davis is nowhere in the picture. I'm not really sure if he's injured or anything, but based on performance, Joey Bart is the best hitter on the Pirates, which is hard to believe for a guy that got just completely let go by his original club in the Giants. Clearly, he was talented. He was a number 2 overall pick several years ago, and sometimes it takes a second team for these guys, and catchers develop at a different rate than than any other position, I would say, because they've got so many responsibilities. Now Bart's been doing it for several years, and it's kind of crazy that that happened. And it almost makes you wonder if Henry Davis needs a change of scenery to have his Joey Bart moment for another team.
Yeah, for a guy that was number 1 overall in the draft, he's not really had. I mean, I don't want to say he hasn't had opportunities, because he has. He's not made the most of his opportunities, I think is the main thing.
Lots of injuries, and yeah, he has not shown a whole lot at the major league level yet.
Yeah. Now, a reason to be a little bit more positive with respect to the Pirates, and that's that Jared Jones is close to coming back from an IL stint. He pitched on Thursday, last Thursday, for AAA Indianapolis, and only covered 2 2/3 innings, but I think it was his first rehab start, so he'll make a couple more and then he'll come back. But this year he's been great is a member of the Pirates here. 91 innings, a 3.56 ERA in his rookie season. Before Paul Skeens hit the scene, like, he was the guy. He some really, really nasty pitches, and he's so fun to watch. And with him going on the injured list and then Paul Skeens coming up, he's kind of got lost in the fray. But I think with him coming back, it is a reason to be positive here about the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Absolutely, yeah. Then the final team in the NL Central is the Reds. And the Reds kind of are surging a little bit. Like, they swept the Cardinals this week.
You didn't have to say it out loud.
They're actually the team that may have underperformed the most, because I think they have the best run differential in the division. Maybe the Brewers have a better one.
The Brewers have double the double the.
Well, okay, they've got the best run differential in, like, the lagging teams in the wild card. So, like, out of the Giants, the Cardinals, the Reds, the Cubs, they've got the best of those teams, I believe.
Yes, out of any team not currently tied for first in the wild card or winning a division, they have the best run differential. Their expected win-loss based on run differential is 66 and 55, and they are 60 and 61.
Right. So maybe we're getting the Reds. They're gonna kind of play up to their actual talent level here in the last couple of months, and they're led by Ellie, who has had a remarkable season with all the stolen bases. But what's more interesting than the stolen bases? I mean, that's cool, but he's developed as a hitter. Like, he stopped striking out nearly as much as he was early in the season, um, doing everything. And just a couple weeks ago, maybe it was last week, he had like 3 straight games where he had 4 hits or something. I mean, the guy can carry a club on his own, and he's lived up to the hype, I would say.
Yeah, back-to-back 4 for 5 games on the 5th and 6th of August.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Ellie has been, he is what he was built up to be, I think, is basically the key here. I mean, he's at 59 steals right now. Like, that's insane. Like, Ronald had 70 or 71 last year, and we've still got 40 games to go. We've got a quarter of the season. Ellie could very well hit 80 steals this year. So
yeah, and the guy I really wanted to talk about on the Reds, though, is Hunter Green, who very quietly has made himself an absolute ace in this league. He's been insane, and he's a workhorse too. He's going deep into every start. Season long numbers look great at this point. 2.83 ERA, 2.95 xERA, 10.1 Ks per 9, a very manageable 3.3 walks per 9, and not getting crushed by home runs like he had in the past, which is very interesting considering the ballpark that he pitches in. So just 0.69 homers per 9.
I do also kind of want, I know we're already at 3 minutes, but you talk about Hunter Green, don't forget Nick Lodolo. He's actually been like improving this year as well, growing into being that big southpaw with a sub 4 ERA. He's striking out less guys this year, but he's also giving up less home runs, and he's cut his walks significantly from 2022 because that was his biggest problem. And he's hit his career high in innings. So those two guys developing side by side, that's huge for this Reds team.
Totally. Okay, we got one more division left. That's the East. Let's talk about the Nationals. The Nationals kind of did a sell-off once again. They've got a bunch of. I feel like the Nationals have the most random guys play for them, and I never watch them, so I don't really know what's going on. But I do know that James Wood is starting to show some stuff recently. He got off to a bit of a slow start. He only has 4 home runs at this point, but recently he's been, showing why he was top 5 prospect in the game.
Well, and he's only 21, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like 21. I think he's not the type of player as Ellie, but he's the kind of guy that could become like a superstar really quickly, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of those guys that is, from a young age, you can kind of see that he's going to be the face of the team. Like when Vladdy came up, like different type of player than Ellie, but has essentially the same role on that team. And James Wood seems like he's going to be that guy. This is a team that has a lot of really young players that are starting to show up off what they can do. Like, I know we've talked about him before this year. CJ Abrams is still playing at a pretty high level. 22 steals this year, 17 home runs, a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. His batting average is basically the only thing that has not really picked up, but he's still got a 115 WRC plus, 2 WAR for this Nats team. Like, I think between Wood, Abrams, at some point soon they're gonna have Brady House, Dylan Cruz. Like, they already have Keibert Ruiz, who's a very respectable backstop.
What happened to him though? He's been so bad this year.
That is a great question. I don't know.
My thing with the Nationals like offense is this team feels like it's from 2003. The way they play baseball, they love to steal bases. They love to just kind of put more like defensive first guys or defense and speed guys. The guy I'm thinking about is this guy, Jacob Young. He's actually having a really nice season. He's hitting 317, amazing defender in center field, 2 WAR player. He's kind of like your average player, but he's got no power to speak of. He has 2 home runs this year, and Abrams is their home run leader, and he's got 17. So I'd like to see this team kind of find some power somewhere.
And I think they're naturally going to find it as some of these guys age into their bodies.
Would, right?
Yeah. Heck, even Abrams has probably got a little bit more growing into his frame than he's got right now. So he's probably going to end up a 25 homer guy consistently.
He's not far off that anyway. So
yeah.
Are you worried about the Phillies? The Phillies have been slumping a little bit recently.
Weston Wilson just hit a cycle like 30 minutes ago. I think they're fine.
Yeah, that was kind of a joke question because, I mean, there's nothing to be worried about with the Phillies.
They're 21 games above 500. I think they're okay.
Sorry, that's like a question that they ask on like the MLB Network, right?
Got Mad Dog.
Yeah, Mad Dog questions like, oh man, the sky is falling. The Phillies had like a bad 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's just a reminder that elite teams have bad stretches every once in a while, and the Phillies were kind of the talk of baseball. Everyone's saying, best team in the league. They've come back down to earth. At one point, the Braves and I think the Mets even were kind of within 5 games or so, and it's nothing, right? It's fine.
They've performed the best out of the entire NL East in the last 10 games, and they went 5-5 in the last 10.
Yeah, so nobody's doing anything to really push them, basically.
Yeah, no, they're gonna be fine. They're gonna win their division, and they've got time to get it turned back around for the postseason. So.
What else we got on the Phillies? So
What happened to Bryson Stott? He had a great start to the season, and he's been just not good.
yeah, I don't I don't know, man. Bryson Stott's just been very blah. He has not followed up the rookie season with much, but I guess they're not really asking a lot of him because he's basically like bottom of the lineup type guy.
I mean, his rookie season and this season are nearly identical.
So maybe we overhyped Bryson Stott.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
Because like it's scary how similar the two seasons are. He had 10 home runs, a 234 average, and an 84 WRC plus in his rookie season. He has 8 home runs, a 236 average, and an 86 WRC plus this year. Both 1.3 WAR. The big difference is that he has stolen 24 bases this year versus 12 in his rookie season.
So what you're saying is 2023 is kind of the outlier. I mean, I think it's too soon to say that Bryson Stott's some sort of finished product. He's only 26.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think there's somewhere in the middle is what he really is. I don't think he's a 280 guy. The 15 home runs, I could see him around 12, so 15 maybe on the high end, 10 on the low end, but
he's not a very exciting player, to be honest.
He's really not.
He's just kind of a blah, everyday type, like, average.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Colton Wong.
Yeah, I could see it. You know, maybe with like, yeah, because he's got the good defense too. Yeah, I could see it. The Mets.
I hate that I just made that comp for Bryson Stott. I hate that for Bryson Stott.
Okay.
Sorry. The Mets.
Yeah, the Mets. So the Mets, they started the season really bad. Everyone was ragging on them as they always do. But basically, if you cut off the month of April, the Mets are a really solid team, and they're right in the thick of the wild card hunt right now. The thing that I thought was really interesting from their trade deadline was that they've basically rebuilt an entire bullpen within one season. If you recall, we saw the Mets right in July, and they were really struggling. It was like Edwin Diaz was coming off his suspension. I think Reed Garrett had turned back into a pumpkin, and things were not looking so good for that bullpen. What have they done? First off, development of Dedniel Nunez into like a shutdown reliever. They made Jose Buto a reliever, and then they brought in guys like Phil Maton. Oh, there's a couple others that they brought in. Was it Ryan Stanek? There's one other guy that I'm thinking of that's been really good for them.
That's fraud. Dude, I don't remember the Mets deadline at all.
Anyways, but they made a bunch of under the radar moves, and it's helped their bullpen a lot. And to me, that's just that's David Stearns doing his like magic, because he would always do this kind of stuff with the Brewers, bring in kind of no name or unheralded relievers, and they would end up being great. And I think the Mets are obviously in good hands with David Stearns, and I'm excited to see what they do this offseason.
So, question. When would you say the season started to turn for the Mets, for the better?
I think it was earlier than people think. I think it was like probably in May.
Early June? Sound about right?
Sure, yeah.
The reason I'm saying that is because early June, their really good defensive catcher with a decent amount of pop came back from the IL. And since then, he has been the regular backstop. And for those of you who aren't Gotham and don't know who the heck I'm talking about, Francisco Alvarez, he went down early in April. And he is their starting backstop. I mean, he's played 62 games this year, and he missed most of April, all of May, and the beginning of June. So in this, basically the 55-ish games since then, like he's hit 260, 320 on base, 5 home runs, which isn't really all that great. But the key here for Alvarez is that he is a great defensive catcher.
That's so weird that you describe him as a great defensive catcher. I always thought of Alvarez as a
But
slugging guy, and you tell me
yeah,
he only has 5 home runs in that span.
yeah, but like all of his 1.4 WAR is defensive. Basically, he's been a solid hitter. Like those are not bad numbers. He's a 109 WRC plus as a catcher, where the average for a catcher is 90. So
yeah,
he's a great hitting catcher. The pop hasn't come back yet, but it'll be there. He hit 25 last year. It'll come back.
No, that's a great thing to point out, because when he came up, he wasn't known as a defensive first player. You tell me he's a great defender now, and I tell you this is like the bottom of his offensive potential. He's a way better hitter than he's been this year, I think.
Yeah. So Francisco Alvarez is going to be scary for the next couple of years.
I think so.
I kind of hope that he turns into like one of Salvador Perez's good seasons, but regularly.
Yeah. Okay. We got 2 more teams. We got the Braves and the Marlins. Let's finish with the Braves, because we got to talk about the Marlins here before we can't conclude on the Marlins. So the Marlins, they're kind of running out random guys, and the random guy that's been just killing it recently is a fellow by the name of Jonah Bride. He's batting cleanup for the Marlins and playing a lot of first base. He's kind of like a journeyman. Played for the A's, I think, the last couple of years. Never really showed anything, and he's basically just playing out of his mind. And Jake Berger is also playing out of his mind. So the Marlins are like somehow better than they were before they traded half their team,
including their star and Jazz Chisholm, who has not missed a beat and actually improved since going to the Yankees.
Yeah. So I don't know. I am more excited about the Marlins now because I like the guys that are getting their opportunities and actually succeeding. Like, I don't think Jonah Bride's a real thing. That's just a cool thing that's going on. But like Xavier Edwards, he's doing cool stuff. He's hitting for amazing batting average and providing good defense at shortstop. He's like he's very old school type player, but Xavier Edwards could be like light Luis Ariz almost.
So I realize that it probably makes more sense to talk about guys that are actively on the Marlins, but I kind of want to talk about a guy that got away. So the Marlins had built up what was seen as like a really good farm system a couple years ago. They had a whole bunch of like high draft prospects and that people had a lot of hopes for, and they've been cutting bait really early with some of these guys. I'm going to give you a stat line and you see if you can tell me who the player is. So this is technically his 3rd season, but it is his breakout. That's the key. 245 average, a 326 OBP, a 440 slug.
I think I already knew who it was before you even started
Who?
listing off the stats. You're talking about JJ Bleday.
I am talking about JJ Bleday. 14 home runs, 10% walk rate, 18% K rate. Like, JJ kind of reminds me a little bit of Lars Nootbaar. His average doesn't seem as high as you would want it to be, but his OBP makes up for it. He's the guy that the A's in Moneyball liked. He gets on base. He's got 2.4 WAR 3/4 of the way through the season. And he would be one of the best players on the Marlins, and they cut bait with him at the age of 24 because he wasn't showing it as a prospect yet.
What was that trade? I don't not remember that.
I don't remember, but it was stupid, and I hated it at the time. I thought that they were missing big there, and honestly, I feel justified in my take now because he's actually turned into a solid player on the A's, which there aren't a ton of those. So,
yeah. And finally, we have the Atlanta Braves, And I am looking at their pitching staff, specifically their starting pitching. They did not go and add at the trade deadline to their rotation, and they're just basically going with their guy. So Chris Sale, he's on another level. He's been amazing. Might win the Cy Young this year. Um, but beyond Chris Sale, we're talking about Spencer Schwellenbach, who's been awesome, but he's pushing up. I think he's already surpassed his career high in innings pitched in a season. Reynaldo Lopez is injured right now. He's supposed to be coming back, but that's a concern because it was an arm injury. And then Charlie Morton just kind of looks like he's washed. And Max Fried has had his own kind of injury issues, and he's actually been kind of worse this year than he's been in the past. I think he's probably fine, but I think that they missed out by not adding another starter.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Max Fried's line, and really, he's pitching about the same as he usually does. The main thing here for Max Fried that stands out to me is the walk rate jumping.
That's weird.
His walk rate has gone from about 4 to 6% in that range up to about 9%.
Yeah, so he's got an average walk rate, and what made him elite, what makes Max Fried such a safe bet is that he would never walk anybody, basically.
Yeah. So it's I mean, he's still pitching well outside of that. Like a 3.56 ERA is very respectable. Still averaging about his 8.5 Ks per 9, 116 innings, so he's pitched a fairly good amount, but
and then
that's across 20 starts.
Final question here on the Braves. The last time Ronald Acuna was out for the season, they traded for this guy named Jorge Soler. It was 2021, and that exact same thing has happened this year. The Braves going to win the World Series?
No, for one reason.
They didn't trade for Jock Peterson.
Correct.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Yeah. So the one guy that I am curious what he's doing, because I haven't actually heard anything about him. Oh, that's why. Okay. He's bad, and I think he's been hurt this year. Michael Harris.
Yeah, he just returned from his injury this week.
Okay. And he was... Oh, yeah, yesterday was his first game back. He was not good before going on the injured list. So,
yeah,
hopefully he gets going, and then the Braves can and win another World Series without Ronald, because that'd be funny if they win a World Series and then he goes 40-70 and then they win another World Series and he's gone.
Yeah.
Funny in like a I'm crying out of sadness way, not like I love that this is happening, but
right.
Funny nonetheless.
Yeah, so that's the National League. We hit on crazy amount of topics right there, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting.
One question that you asked with the Marlins thing that I got an answer for, so I just want to come back and close that up.
Sure.
JJ Bleday was traded for AJ Puck, who is no longer with the Marlins.
So they got a good player out of that deal, though.
They did, but then they've already moved on from him and got... Who'd they get back from Puck?
They got... I feel like they got a couple prospects.
It was... Davison De Los Santos and Andrew Pintar. So actually, yeah, they got some pretty good prospects there.
And they got an all-star year out of AJ Puck last year, so I mean...
True. So this very well, especially if one or both of these guys pan out that they got for Puck, overall they won that, but I don't like it. I still like JJ Bleday.
Well, he's getting the playing time with the A's, so good for him.
I love that you knew that that's who I was going to talk about before I even
literally
started talking.
knew about that like right when you started talking about, when you said that you're going to be talking about a guy that's not on the team. I was like, I know who you're talking about.
Because it's me, or because
it's you.
Okay.
Yeah. I know your love for JJ Bleday.
Fair enough.
All right. So what do you think? You want to do this again next week for the AL?
I'm in.
All right. Let's do it. So yeah, come back next week and we'll do it all again for 15 other teams. How about that?
That works.
And yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you then.
Have a good one. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.